Welcome to Plenty in 20, leading with purpose, setting your team up for success. We're going to keep this punchy as we do with every Plenty in 20 session. It's full of tips and strategies and it will be 20 minutes or less. The learning scaffolds, so it builds from point to point and we do present in a logical order. For that reason and because we move at a high pace, we strongly recommend that you find 20 uninterrupted minutes to get the best value from the video. So let's start by talking about the myth. This is a myth that undermines our capacity to lead well. It undermines our capacity to lead with purpose. The myth is that somewhere out there are amazingly good and amazingly bad employees. And we use employees in inverted commas because we don't like to talk about people as employees. It conveys a subservience that's alien to our concept of leadership. We like to talk about team members, but for the purpose of this slide, we'll refer to people as employees. And it's a complete myth that there is this set of amazing people out there somewhere and a set of really bad people. Sure, there's some really good people every now and then, and there's a few people who just don't want to be in the workplace. But the vast majority of people who are in our workplaces are just normal, and again, normal in inverted commas, because who's normal? Most of them are just normal people responding to the workplace culture and leadership they're exposed to. So what does that mean? It means that people operate on a spectrum. At the one end of the spectrum, they may actually be pretty poor at their job. They may have poor attitudes. They may behave poorly in the workplace. And at the other end of the spectrum, they may be really good at their job. They may behave really well. They may align with values, etc. But it's the same person. So what explains the difference? Well, the best way to understand that is to think about yourself. I'll bet you've been a really good team member in some environments. And I'll bet that was because of the specific workplace culture you were in, perhaps the leadership you were exposed to. Now, what stimulated you to be the best you could be will be different from workplace to workplace. But there was something about that culture and that leadership that brought the best out in you. And I'll bet you've also been in other workplaces where you've responded with, oh, well, I'll just do my job. I'll just do what I have to do. And you were a lesser version of yourself. Same person, responding differently based on the workplace culture and the leadership you're exposed to. So why is that important? It's important because if we want to lead with purpose, if we want to get the best from the people in our teams, we give up the myth of exceptional people and chasing that exceptional person, and we work with the normal people we have and we provide them with the leadership, we provide them with the culture that they will respond to by being exceptional. When we approach it that way, our pool of potentially exceptional people is significantly larger. Now, I don't operate in some sort of delusional world where no one is bad. There are some people who just don't want to be there, and our workplace culture and our leadership has to encourage them not to be there. So the question is, for that vast majority of normal people, how do we get them to respond with high performance? And how do we get them to respond with aligned behaviour? What strategies as a leader can you use that create that leadership and the workplace culture we talk to? And that's what we're going to go through today. We're going to give you 8 tips. So the first of them is an understanding of why people work. Why do they come to work? Now, if you responded with money, people just come to work to get paid, then you've got a problem, because that mindset limits your view of people and why they're at work. And it's simply not true. Money buys attendance, nothing more. I've turned up, give me some money. Think about yourself. You may come to work because you need the money to pay the bills. But why do you come to this work? Is it because of the big bucks? And I can already hear some of you laughing. Or is it because this work gives you other opportunities, other things that you respond to in a motivated, purposeful way, and therefore bring a better version of yourself. So if money buys attendance and other things create high performance, what are those other things? Now, there are so many here that we don't have time to list them. That would consume the 20 minutes on its own. There is on our podcast and on our blog an expanded version of this that you could listen to or read if you like. But here's a few of the things that people respond to in a more purposeful way. So things like achievement. And you think about yourself, and I'll bet you some of these things resonate for you. So achievement is one of them. I want to feel like I'm achieving something. I want to feel like there's a purpose to my work. I want to make a difference. I want to go home at the end of the day knowing that something I did made a difference. Because if I didn't, what was it all for? I want connection. I want to be part of a team. I want to be part of a community working together, and I want to feel accepted by them and connected to them. I want growth. I want to learn. I don't just want to be the same version of myself day after day, month after month, year after year. There's a wonderful saying that people are either green and growing or ripe and rotting. If there's no growth, ripe and rotting is just around the corner, and poor performance follows very, very shortly afterwards. Being valued. I want to know that the people around me value, they have gratitude for what I do. They appreciate the fact that I make an effort. I want to have an influence. I want to feel like what I say matters. I want to have some control over my work. Now, this is a starting list, but it's a very, very good one. And if we could simply build those 6 things into every workplace, would see massive increases in engagement and performance. So what happens is the presence of those things goes beyond attendance and creates high performance, motivation, engagement, all those things we want. The absence of those things creates resentment, apathy, mediocrity. The second thing that you can do, and I know that we're going through these quickly, but that's our 20-minute promise to you. The second thing that you can do is have really clear expectations. If we start with the premise that the vast majority of people want to do a good job, the number one thing shown by research that determines whether they do a good job or not is how well they understand what good looks like. Now, if you don't believe that starting premise, that the vast majority of people want to do a good job, I'm going to be blunt, you don't belong in leadership, because that will lead you to adopt a leadership style that's destructive to performance, destructive to morale, and ultimately demoralizing for you. So starting with that premise, we need to make sure people know what a good job looks like. The simple reality is the vast majority of leaders overestimate how clear people are. So I would say 90% plus of the leaders we work with, and then we talk to their teams, overestimate how much clarity they've provided to their teams. There's really 2 reasons for that. One is assumption. They assume because it's clear in their mind that it's clear to the people around them. And the other is inconsistency, that there's a big gap between I say we want this, but then I do this. I say we accept nothing but the highest standards, but then I don't hold people accountable when I see poor performance, poor behaviour. I say we value and respect everyone, but when team members don't treat each other particularly well, it's too hard, I'll let it go. Or potentially when I'm frustrated, I may not treat them with the respect. So there's a gap between the inconsistency between what I say and what I do. The third tip is understanding motivations. So if you as a leader know what motivates every individual on your team, and that's a good question to ask yourself, can I say that? Is that true for me right now? Then I'll know who likes to be challenged, who likes predictability. I'll know who likes or is desperate to learn new things, and who's highly competitive, wants to get into some sort of, see who can do best here. who likes quiet appreciation and which team member likes a standing ovation? Who's ambitious and who loves to help others? And we could go on with a bunch of other motivations. So if I know what motivates each team member, then my next challenge is to build that into their work, to build what motivates each individual into their work, to build those opportunities to grow and stretch into one person's work, and to build opportunities to support and help others into someone else's work. Is that challenging? Absolutely. Does it require nimble leadership? Totally. But that's what leadership's about. It's about leading the individuals the best way you can lead each individual, not imposing a default style. And that will lead us into one of the later tips. The fourth tip is to define the why. People, as we said before, come to work wanting to feel they've made a difference. The reason to do a task is not because it needs to be done. Now, sure, we could argue that would be the immediate reason. But is that going to motivate anyone to do a great job, or is that going to motivate them just to get it done and tick it off? If we want high performance, we have to build a stronger motivation into the work. We have to give broader context. So in our organisation, I'm not recording this webinar because we promised we'd publish it, or because my colleague said she needed it done by a certain date, or because I have to, it's on my task list. I'm doing it because of our why. And our why tells me why we do what we do and why what we do is important. So our why at the Real Learning Experience is because people deserve great workplaces and because workplaces deserve great people. That inspires me. And if it doesn't inspire me, I shouldn't be working here. But that inspires me because I want you as a leader to be able to create a great workplace for people. And I want you as a leader to have strategies to help people bring their best self to work because they mutually deserve it. I'm also involved, I have some ownership in a tutoring company, and it's got a social enterprise element to it. And our why there is because every child deserves the opportunity to thrive. Now that's a whole lot different to saying to one of our tutors, look, we need you to work at 5:30 tonight. Yeah, that's logistical, that's rostering. They'll turn up, they'll attend. But why are they there? Because every child deserves the opportunity to thrive. We have a division of the Real Learning Experience that works specifically in conferences. And our why there is because learning should be fun. Now notice all of these begin with a why, with because. And that's my natural response to the question, why? Why am I doing this? Not just for the immediate, but bigger picture. And that fills me with a sense of purpose. I'm going to share one with you from a client we work with that doesn't start with because, just to show it can be done. So this is an organisation working in disability support, helping people with intellectual disabilities to live in their own home and to be active in the community. And their why, every time they have to make a decision or a choice, every time they go to work when maybe they don't want to, maybe they've got something else to do, there's a reminder, why are we here? Because we're building better lives. Now I threw the because in there. It's obviously habit when I hear the word why. Their why is simply building better lives. And that's a strong message to their people that what they're doing is important. It's got context. It's not just about getting through the 9 to 5 or whatever shift they happen to be working. Tip number 5 is be the facilitator. So when we say be the facilitator, think about what a facilitator does. They make things possible. They organise, they remove barriers. And one of the things you might need to do as a leader is facilitate the environment in which your people perform. Think about what gets in the way of their performance. Are other teams supporting them? Are other people within the team supporting them? Do they need you to provide different resources? Could you lead them differently? Can you eliminate distractions, etc.? So be the facilitator and try and create a climate, an environment in which people can do great work. The sixth tip is one you've heard before. It's all about feedback. And again, most managers believe they give enough feedback. That's certainly in our experience talking to managers, and that's supported by workplace studies. But there's a huge chance, a better than 90% chance that they're wrong, because the vast majority of people that we work with and in studies say they wish they got more feedback from their manager, of all sorts. And the baffling thing is that feedback's a free hit. It's unlike, those physical resources and budget that you people want. Feedback costs nothing. And it's highly tied to the motivations that people have to perform at a high level in the workplace. So feedback's tied to appreciation. It's tied to recognition. It's tied to gratitude. All of these things come under some of the headings we talked about before. So these things overlap, but feedback is a great way to deliver it. A good phrase is, if you think you're giving enough feedback, then give a little bit more. Give a bit more feedback and you'll start to bridge the gap between what you're giving and what your people really want. Another great role of feedback is accountability. And accountability is irrevocably linked to high performance. One of the most demoralizing things for people is to come to work and thinking, it doesn't matter what I do today, we're not going to achieve anything because the standards around me are so low. And accountability is a great way to address that. And accountability is all about feedback. Tip number 7 is adaptive leadership. So you've really got 3 choices in leadership. You could lead the way you like to lead. And I'm going to use this phrase advisedly. You could impose your favourite and default style on everyone and hope it lands. Good luck with that. You could lead people the way they want to be led. It's an improvement, but some people, they want to be led a certain way because of their comfort zone. Or you could lead people the way they need to be led, which is a combination of taking yourself out of your comfort zone and adapting to the style that's going to get the value for them, but also potentially taking them out of their comfort zone and using a style that might challenge them. This is when you use a style like holding people accountable, even though you much prefer just building nice relationships with people. This is a style where you ask people to figure some things out for themselves, even though they like to have their hand held. So adapt your leadership style to the one they need. And again, there's a lot more information on that available in the blogs and so on our website around different leadership styles. And the last one we're going to go through is about building the team. Now, building the team is all about having clear expectations about the way people interact as well as the way they perform the task. It can't just be about task performance, because then you've got a team that could be dysfunctional. We've all worked in teams that inspire us, and we've all worked in teams that suck the life out of us. So that might be having a clear set of values that define, this is how we work together. This is how we behave in the workplace. This is agreed, and we're going to be accountable to that. So it does mean having that accountability, which may be uncomfortable for some leaders. Sometimes it means, as a leader, you ask people to solve their own problems by using agreed principles and values. And sometimes it might mean that you've got to get in there and still ask them to solve their own problems, but with you facilitating them. All of these tips, there's a whole bunch of information available, and I'm going to show you some of the resources we share in the few seconds available to me. So some events coming up, obviously the Plenty in 20 series. Keep an eye out for upcoming episodes. We'll advise you if you've enrolled and registered every time one's released. We also have a 6-month authentic leadership program. There's a discount code there for you to save $500. It's entirely online, includes a series of 3-hour webinars. It includes a series of some online coaching. It includes some self-paced stuff. And there's a couple of other resources that you can use. One is our podcast. Our podcast has been renamed The Culture Nerds because we have a lot of fun, but we also have some punchy messages. Our blog, every month we have at least one article, usually two, that dive deeper into a leadership topic. And you can always reach out and contact us if you'd like some advice. I'm 20 seconds over, so I'm going to stop there and we'll see you in next month's webinar. All the best. Until I see you next, stay authentic.